Greetings, I am Pauline Gongan. Welcome to another episode 4 on the theme You Are Not Bad, You Just Need Some Tips to Improve on Yourself. Today's topic of discussion is language. What is language? Language is the principal method of human communication with the use of words consistently in order to structure a speech, writing, or a gesture. Language is an identity. Language represents culture, beliefs, religion, values, dressing, food, any other aspect that someone can identify themselves in culture. There are different styles of language. Before we move to the styles of language, let's understand the different functions of language. A language has to be effective. You can control language. You can remember. You can think. And you can be creative in language. That means when you're able to communicate with someone, the person can master those different functions in the words you choose to talk to them. If someone can't identify themselves with the different functions of language, it becomes not a problem because the person can interpret what you explain to them. All the same, don't be in haste. Gradually, slowly, you will get there. It's not how fast you go, but it's how far you go. Let's move on to the styles of language. First is the formal sector, the formal style of language. The formal style of language is serious. It's being serious. It's a judgment, with the words you use. What kind of words can I use? What kind of words can I use to address a public or the people I'm in contact with? This can mostly be seen in the areas of politics, areas of the workplace, the companies. We all have different lifestyles. Obviously, when you're at work, you have to be serious. You have to give in your best for you to have a productive output. If you're a social influencer and you are being called into a political office or into an office, it requires you to put out a formal appearance, a formal use of words. Yes, we all are human beings, we are all social beings, but particular roles require particular gestures, and you have to be in that gesture. Second is the informal sector, the informal style of language. The informal style of language is about discussion, narration of events. It's more like a relaxed environment. It's more like I am myself. I can freely deliver whatever I have within me. That area requires you to give your best also. Yes, in the society, the environment, your family, your friends, your intimate partner, yes, it requires you to give your best. Also, when someone from a formal sector move into the informal sector, you have to be like them. Because you are meeting them, you have to be like them. You can impose your formal style into an informal style. You won't be able to associate with them because and a comforting idea. One, they will think you are trying to show off, or they will think you are trying to prove a point when there is no point. Yes, you have knowledge, you have an idea, you want to bring change, but you have to connect with the people for you to embrace change, for you to grasp productivity, and for you to be at ease in security. And last, we'll talk about the lingua franca. The lingua franca style of language is about mixing two words. You can use the English and the French word. You can use other languages to form a different identity, a different way of communicating with the people. These aspects can be used mostly with the youth, who come with new generations, people who are able to express themselves freely in a particular language and just combine both to form a different language. That is very good, that is good. Now, if you are in an informal sector, you have to split the form in the lingua franca sector. How can you do that? One, you have to learn. You don't have to prove a point at all times. They have some words that are quite similar or different from what you know in the informal sector. That makes you now to accept them, to understand them, and to interpret them. That aspect is very difficult for someone who hasn't lived in that area for a while. Then you require an interpreter or a translator who assists you, or a native of that origin, of that environment, to be with you throughout. Another aspect we talk about the native language, which is the dialect. The dialects are mostly the ethnic groups. Different people have different ethnic origins, and they can identify themselves with their language, with their dialect. You have to master the language. If you are able to communicate with them, don't prove that you know the language when you don't know the language. You have to provide them, you have to give them that opportunity. Always work with a third party, always work with the second party for the person to administer you, to guide you, to tell you what to do. We are all gifted with languages. I can create my own language, the next person can adopt it or not. But how do we transmit the message? Can a person interpret what you're trying to say? Can a person be creative? Can a person build something with the language you're trying to use? Sometimes being known as a bad person is because you're trying to impose the formal sector into an informal sector. Imposing the informal sector into the lingua franca into the dialect. Obviously, there's a clash. It's not a crime to say you don't know. It's not a crime to say, please help me. It's not bad to say, I don't know. For you to live in peace with one another, you have to master the language, the written, the oral, and the gesture. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook and on Instagram.